So we're going to do a little bit of just Bible journaling, and we're going to play with napkins today. And I need to put something underneath this. Let me put you can tell my Bible's getting pretty full. I'll put these napkins underneath here. I just want to be sure you can see this page. So in the Risen bundle, there's all kinds of napkins, Let me show you what it looks like. Okay. This was back again in the spring, but not all of the napkins in here are Easter. Some of them are, but there are crosses in here. There's a beautiful lamb in here. There's some beautiful verses in here. You can see this cross would be awesome in your journaling Bible because you could actually journal within the cross. That would be gorgeous. Lamb. This one is actually He is risen. That would be so pretty in your Bible. And let's see what else we have here. We have some flowers. Here's another cross, a verse. Some of these we've already used on other projects, but I just wanted to show you what all's in the bundle. I don't remember exactly how many napkins. Do you remember, Cheryl? I don't remember exactly how many napkins are in here, but there's also some napkins like this. There's this beautiful butterfly. Look at this beautiful butterfly. Sometimes when I think about Bible journaling, I think about symbols, right? And to me, like a butterfly is perfect because a butterfly does what? Does it start out as a butterfly? No, it doesn't. A butterfly is a great symbol for transformation, right? For transformation. So I love this butterfly. There is a rainbow in here. We're going to be playing with this one as well. I love this pretty rainbow. What does the rainbow symbolize to us as believers? As believers, the rainbow signifies promise. That every time we see that rainbow, we know it's a reminder that God keeps His promises to us. Okay. Here's one that has a verse on it. Be still and know that I am God. Right? Yes, Trish, this napkin bundle is still available. It sure is. And here's some wildflowers. I'm going to play with that one. Here's another one. It says, believe there is good in the world. Be the good. Be the good. Love that one. So there's quite a few different types of napkins in this bundle. Okay. Cheryl's posting the link right now for you. If you want to purchase it, we still have them available. We'll continue to sell them until they're gone. I only do a faith-based napkin bundle twice a year. This is the spring one. And then there'll be another one this fall that will be Christmas related. Okay, Christmas related. So usually just 2 a year, and they're available to anyone. They're not just for Napkin Club members or anything like that. They're available to anyone. I do generally give the Napkin Club members first dibs, just because that, they're loyal members and that's important to me. But we do still have some available. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about napkin art. Now, these Bibles are really thin. The Bible pages, are really thin. Okay, Bible pages are very, very thin. That's actually kind of a good thing. If I wanted to, take something, do you see how I can see that be the good? You can put things underneath your pages and trace them so easily. And that is awesome and fun and incredible. That's why I love creating the printables for my people. Do you see? So then you can just go in and trace things out. You don't really always need something, like a graphite paper or anything like that. Just depends on the techniques that we're doing. And we do some awesome fun techniques in there. Today, I'm just going to use just regular watercolor. I'm really just going to focus on the napkin art today and show you guys how I do my napkin art on the pages of my Bible. Okay? Yes, we do have a new series coming up. We're going to kick it off June 5th. So now is a great time to join. You can join at any time if you are interested. Your payments won't go through until the 3rd, of June, and we're going to kick off. It's called Creative Escape. We're going to go on, we're going to travel. We're going to travel in our Bible. I'm going to be your tour guide. And we're going to travel into Bible stories. We're going to go into Bible stories. We're going to learn about the places they take, that they happen. We're going to learn about the people in them. We're going to learn things as adults that maybe we didn't learn as kids when it came to Bible stories. So it's going to be really, really fun. It's going to be June, July, and August. So if you're interested, Cheryl will post a link for you if you want to get more info on that. Okay. All right. So let's go here. And the verse that I'm going to be looking at here is in Luke 12. Luke 12. And sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. It's verses 27. Let's start with verse 27. This is about not being anxious. This verse is about not being anxious. And I'm going to read this here, but then I'm going to tell you something else that I do. Okay. So this is all about do not be anxious, right? So verse 27, consider the lilies, how they grow. Or you could say, consider the wildflowers and how they grow. They neither toil or spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, right? If God provides these beautiful flowers in the grass, which is alive in the field today, but gone tomorrow, right? Let's see how much more. Oh, sorry. I lost my place here. But if God clothes the grass which is alive in the field today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, meaning it's not going to last, right? How much more will he clothe you? Oh, you of little faith. And do not seek what you are to eat and what you are to drink, nor be worried, for all the nations of the world seek after these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things will be added unto you. So, what's that verse saying to us? It's reminding us that if God can make the beautiful wildflowers, right, in the grass, if he can feed them and protect them and all of the things, and all they have to do is just bloom and grow because God watches over them. And even though they just last a season, how much more is he going to care for us, right? So we don't need to be anxious. We don't need to be anxious. We don't need to be worried. If we are truly believing in him and trusting in him, he's going to care for us. Okay. He's going to care for us in amazing ways. All right. So this in my Bible, it says the lilies of the field, but I'm going to consider this to be wildflowers. I'm going to consider this to be wildflowers of the field. And y'all, this is something that I do regularly. I'm going to give you a site. It's called BibleGateway.com. BibleGateway.com. And if I ever read a verse and it's just not clicking, like I'm not quite understanding the words or something, I will go to BibleGateway.com and I will put in that verse and it will show me that same verse in different versions. And sometimes, like if this is an ESV, sometimes I'll go in and I'll read the version in the NIV and I'll be like, oh, okay, now I understand what that word means. Or I'll go into the Message and I'll read it. And that's kind of in like today's terms, right? So like I love being able to go in and read those verses sometimes because verses can be hard to understand. They really can be. And sometimes just by looking at other versions kind of helps the light bulb go off, as do our devotionals, because our devotionals really kind of dig into specific verses and things like that. Okay. So just going to give that to you. So I want to put these lovely wildflowers on my page. And one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pit pen. I like to use pit pens in my Bible. And I'm going to come over here to this verse. Now, I actually really love this whole passage about not being anxious. So I'm going to mark this whole passage. I'm going to just kind of draw this line around it. And again, this is going to help someone else later to know. And I'm going to switch my screen here in just a second so y'all can see. And I like to do this thing like a kind of a wiggly double trace, just kind of doodly. I might add some color to it later, but I want everyone to know that this entry over here was inspired by these verses. Okay, does that make sense to you guys? Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to change my view. We're going to talk about adding these napkins to our Bible page, okay? All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and make this a solo layout. Okay, that way I know that you guys can see well, and you can see how I've kind of outlined my verse there. And I promise this is going to pop a lot more when we add a little bit of color to it. So I want to use these beautiful flowers here. When I first saw this napkin, this verse, this passage is actually the one that I immediately thought about. So I'm going to cut a square of this off. Okay. Now, the cool thing about a napkin is that anything that is white, this kind of white background, is really going to just kind of disappear into our page. But I don't really like the straight lines. So I'm just going to cut, just kind of bubble cut around this. Okay. And I generally will cut the napkin while it still has all the plies on it. We're going to remove the plies here in a moment. And I don't mind it being straight at the bottom because I'm going to put that right at the bottom of the page here. And this is a fairly big napkin. So if your Bible page is not quite this big, there's a couple different things that you could do. You could just cut a portion of it. Like if you just have a single column, you could just kind of cut a portion of the flowers. If you want the flowers to kind of come over to the other page, this is also a really pretty look. Really, really love this look. If you want to do that. I think for right now, because mine will fit on this page, I'm just going to focus on this little area right here. Now, what do you think would happen if I put color on the page? Okay. If I were to put color on this page, what do you think would happen with my flowers? You can answer in the comments. It's fine. I'm just going to use some watercolors here. And I don't. I'll just use a piece of plastic. Well, sometimes, depending on color, if you add color to your page, sometimes it's going to show kind of, it's going to come up through your napkins. Okay. So like this purple napkin, if I did a really, really bright, red or something behind here, I wouldn't do that. But red and green, right? The red's going to show through the green. So the leaves aren't going to be as intense. Okay. So sometimes that's right. It's going to show, that hue is going to show through the napkin because we're only going to use the top tissue. So it's going to be very thin. I just put a little bit, I literally just tap my thumb and my finger on my tongue just to get it a little bit wet. And I'm taking off the plies. Much easier to take the plies off once the napkin is cut. So you can see it's super thin, super, super thin. Look, if I were to put this napkin over here, right? So if you have a single column, but if I put this napkin over here, I want you to notice this. It might be hard to see on camera, but I can actually see the words through the napkin. I love that. I love that I can see the words right through the napkin. It's so sheer. Okay. So I put a piece of plastic here underneath my page. I'm just going to do just a little bit of watercolor, not a lot. And you know what? I just realized I didn't bring water in here. So let me see if I have any water in my water brushes over here. Okay, I got it, Cheryl. All right. I have water in my water brushes, which is great. So we do have water brushes, and these are great. They're kind of unusual because they open backwards, but they open up. and you can fill them with water. Thank you. And then we just screw them back on. Why they open backwards, I have no idea. I think it's because you're supposed to, I don't know why it is. They're all made that way. It's very strange. So I can put water in here, and then it just kind of can, I can control where I'm putting it. And I love that because I take my water brushes and my watercolors, and I usually take my journaling Bible with me anywhere I go. So even if it's, I'm on vacation or something, I just throw a few things in a zipper bag, and I can do my journaling, take my journaling with me. I did put a little piece of plastic. You could put a piece of wax paper. If you have a craft mat, you can put a craft mat under your page. The only reason I put that underneath there is to protect the fanned out pages. It has nothing to do with the watercolor itself. Watercolor is what we call a green light. I say green light, red light a lot, but watercolor is a green light. You can use watercolors in your Bible all the time, and you don't have to worry about them bleeding. Sometimes you'll get what we call ghosting, and ghosting is more like kind of like the hue shows through, but it doesn't bleed through. And that usually happens with intense colors like reds or hot pinks, something like that. So I'm going to come down just a little ways. And the other thing I want you to know is it's perfectly normal for your Bible page to kind of bubble up. You see how it's kind of bubbling? That is what paper does. That is what paper does when it gets wet. So I'm keeping this very, very soft. I just want kind of this almost like a pretty blue sky, right? Just really soft. Don't want a lot of intense color. Very, very, very soft. And I'm going to go ahead and dry it with my heat tool. But normally this wouldn't take that long to dry, but I want to be a good steward of your time. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this a little bit. Now I could have added in other colors, but I really want my napkin art to pop. That's what I'm interested in. I'm just going to take that off. And so as the page dries, it will be a little bit ripply, crinkly, but most of the time it's going to flatten back out just from the sheer weight of your Bible pages. Okay. Jackie, this Bible is a interleaved Bible, so it has a blank page between each page of text. Not all Bibles are interleaved. This one is, and it's also a journaling Bible. So an interleaved journaling Bible meant for note takers. And we are note takers. We're just creative note takers. We're just taking our notes creatively. So you can see that softness. It's just really adding a softness. No special skills needed. You just want to add that little hint of blue to the page. Okay, all nice and dry now. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add my napkin art. Okay, I'm going to add this beautiful napkin art. It's going to remind me of these wildflowers, right, that the Bible is talking about. So to add napkin art, most of the time, especially if you're in the napkin club, a lot of times we'll use different types of mediums. But the only medium that I use for napkin art in my Bible is clear gesso. Okay, clear gesso. That's the only one I use. It's made for paper and it's smooth. Not all gesso is smooth. There's a lot of gesso out there that's clear, but it's made for canvases. So when it dries, it's kind of gritty. It's kind of gritty like sandpaper. So we want to use a gesso that's actually made for mixed media art, that's made for paper. The Dina Wakley clear gesso is just that. This is a small one. I love the small ones because, again, I can throw it in a zipper bag or something, take it along with me. They also make a jar of it. And there's also a brand called Prima Art Basics. It is also a really good gesso for paper. Okay. So This gesso, we're going to utilize it while it's wet. And let's put our plastic back down again because I'm going to paint this on. And again, this is just to protect my fanned out pages. So I'm going to squeeze some lines of this out. And we're going to lay the napkin into it while it's wet. So this is going to become like an adhesive for us. It also, gesso is a way that you can, what we call, prep our pages. So if we're going to do something to our pages that we feel like could possibly bleed through, or maybe we've already created on the other side of the page and we don't want anything to react with what we've already done, you can actually add this gesso to your page. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so pretty. So I'm going to just kind of press this down. I might have to put a little more gesso on that side. Just kind of gently press. I'm going to grab another little plastic sheet here. Now these plastic sheets are deli bakery sheets, but you could use plastic wrap from your kitchen. You could use saran wrap. You could open up, cut open a baggie or something and use that. But do you see how the blue is showing through? Isn't that pretty? So this is helping me to smooth, and you're going to get a much smoother look by using this method with plastic wrap or plastic sheet with your napkin art. It's going to be gorgeous. Okay. And now I'm just going to carefully peel this back. Perfect. And I'm going to dry it just a little bit, and then I'll hold it up for you so that you can see. Dries really, really quickly. And then I generally will put just a real light coat over the top of the napkin art too, just to protect it. Okay, so let me hold this up for you. Look how beautiful. You see the blue? Just that sky kind of showing in the background. Hopefully you can see that okay. I think it's really pretty. So by keeping the background very light, soft, it doesn't affect the colors as much, right? So next step, again, for napkin art, I can see a little bit of my napkin right there that I didn't get gesso underneath. So let's fix that part first. Okay, that part's fixed. Now, again, and it won't take much at all, y'all. Just little dots. It's not going to take much at all. And I'm just going to go over the top of it. Now, here's the cool thing about clear gesso and napkin art. Clear gesso is what we call workable. So what that means is instead of using like a Mod Podge would seal this napkin and we wouldn't be able to go back in and put more watercolor on if we wanted to, or other type of paint, techniques or anything like that. But the clear gesso that's made for paper, the Dina Wakley, it's different. It's workable, which means if I go to prep a page, actually, let's do this. If I go to prep a page, right, that I just don't want, I think maybe our next one might have something on the back of it. I can't remember. But if you're just prepping the page, and I prepped all of my pages in the beginning just for insurance because I was so nervous about like, would it bleed through whatever I was using, whatever I was stamping with, that kind of thing. So I used this all the time, but I've learned now what products work best on the pages and what you should stay away from. Remember how I said green light, red light? So we talk about that a lot in the Faith Journaling group. That is so pretty. And this is going to dry like super, super, super fast. So just to give you an example, I don't really need to prep this, but I'm going to, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I'm just going to put a little bit of gesso right here. And I mean, you can't tell that it's there. When it dries, you can kind of sort of feel it when it's dry, but you cannot tell it at all. It is super sheer. super, super sheer. So let me dry this really quickly. Now watch, if I come over here with this same blue, I can come in and I can add some color. If this was any other kind of, like a Mod Podge or something like that, you couldn't add this. It would just bead up on the top of the Mod Podge. It would not absorb. It would not allow it to, what we call, be workable. So I'm just going to kind of add that color. And again, when this dries, it's going to be super pretty, super soft. And then that verse is really going to stand out to me. Okay, it's really, really going to stand out to me. So that's just to show you that, that's what it means to be workable. You can do things on top of it. It doesn't resist. It doesn't resist like a Mod Podge or something else like that would. Okay, so I'll show you again. We just added some color, but that's why I love watercolors, because you can see through them. You can see through them. Okay. So now then, what would I do next? Well, now I've got all of this room right here to be my personal journaling space. I can come in and journal on this. If I want to do any pen work on the flowers, I can come in and add some pen work. I'm going to go ahead and move on, I think, to the next one. But now would be my time where I really focus on the verse. I really think about the verse. I think about, all the care that these flowers don't have to think about anything. God provides everything for them. So if he provides everything just for wildflowers, just think about what he's going to provide for us as his children, right? So that's something that then you can come in and maybe you want to do a prayer of praise right there or something like that, just to help you remember you don't have to be anxious. God is he's got you in his hand, right? He's got you in his hand and he's going to take care of you. Okay. So any questions on that part of the process? If you have any questions at all, I'm sure I may have missed them as my head was down. But I like the Dina Wakley brand of gesso. Comes in a bottle, also comes in a jar. I also like the Prima Art Basics. It's also made for mixed media and for paper. So it's nice and sheer and smooth and workable. Okay. So very much a great thing to have for your Bible journaling, and perfect for napkins. It is what you want to use. It's the only thing I like to use for napkins in my Bible. Okay. And you can see, I mean, it's there. It's there. It's not going anywhere. It's there. Let's turn it over so you can see. Do you see how the watercolor doesn't come through? Okay. So we're all good there. All I have to do is add my journaling. Okay. So let's look at another verse. Let's look at another verse here. And I'm going to come back here now to Romans 12:2. Okay, Romans 12:2. I'm going to read it for you. Do not conform to the pattern. I have this one memorized. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So remember how we talked about the butterfly and transformation. Let me find my butterfly over here. Let me go back to here. Where did I float the little butterfly, right? This butterfly would be this would be perfect for this particular verse, right? Because a butterfly is all about transformation. And so I wanted to show you that some napkins have foiling on them. So typically a napkin with foil is only going to be on the front napkin. It's not going to be on every single napkin. So I can get it open here. But you actually have 4 butterflies. You have 4 butterflies here. So if you want to, this would be something really cool. You could even make a tip-in on. The Bible could open up to your butterfly kind of in the center like that. So you could, there's lots of things that you could do. I think this is really, really beautiful. So I was thinking about using the foil one in my Bible. So I'm going to cut this very carefully. Oops, I have to cut it one more spot here. And I'm sure the napkin companies do that because it would just be too expensive to try to foil every side. Now, do you see where the napkin is real straight cut right here? This is where I'm just going to go in and just kind of make it curved so that it doesn't look super straight right there. And do the same thing over here. Just kind of trim around it. And now I've got this beautiful butterfly. So, got to take the plies off. You created on a different page. Okay. I'm reading Trisha's note to self. Yeah. I think all of us at one time or another has done that where, you know, maybe we accidentally didn't realize that the ceiling fan blew the page over or something like that. But again, there's never anything we can't fix, right? You're just going to note on that journaling entry the verse. Just write the verse, write the book and the chapter and the verse, you know, on there so you'll know where to go to. It does happen. I'm in Romans. I'm in Romans this time. Okay. I am in Romans, and I love this verse. It's Romans 12:2. Okay. Do not be conformed to the world. So we're going to be transformed by the renewing of our mind through, right? Through what? Through Christ, right? Through God, through the Bible, through the scripture, through all of those things. And so I love, love, love this verse. So I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to come in and again, mark it. Now, so I do all kinds of things. Sometimes I'll highlight it. Sometimes I'll draw something around it. I'll, you know, I don't know. Today, I'm just going to kind of do some lines around it just to show you. But you can make your verse stand out in all kinds of ways. Okay. So this is all about that transformation. So I'm thinking this butterfly could look gorgeous on my page, maybe kind of floating at an angle. Let me slide we're on the other side of the Bible now. So let me push this over a little bit so that you can see, right? So again, if I wanted this to be in the center, I'm not going to be able to see quite as much. I can see some of the words, but because of the foiling, it's going to be a little harder to see. So I'm going to keep my butterfly over here, and it just fits. Kind of want it on at an angle. I like the idea of it on at kind of an angle. So that means it's going to be cut off a little bit. So this is something that I think looks good on pages sometimes, is actually letting it kind of like it's kind of floating up onto the page. So what we'll do is we'll wind up just taking that back off. Let me make sure I have all my plies off. I think I do. Okay, I do. All right, so let's go back to our plastic wrap. And again, this is just to protect the fanned out pages. I'm just using that because I did not bring my other craft mat up here with me. I'm at the shop, but again, you could use wax paper. You could use anything really. I'm not going to do any color this time. I'm going to do something different this time. Okay. Show you something a little different. So let's squeeze out some gesso. Again, you've got to put the napkin on while the gesso is wet, right? So that way it adheres to it. And I'm going to make sure to go off the page this time. And I think a little gesso goes a long way. So, and then the other thing I'm going to tell y'all is that even if I don't need the gesso everywhere, sometimes if I have it on my brush, I'll just swipe it on just to use it, since this is the last page I'm going to do with you guys. Okay, so I'm going to take my butterfly and I'm going to have it kind of coming off the page. I'm going to grab another piece of plastic wrap here. And smooth. And you're going to love this because even though we're going to put a top coat over this to protect the napkin, the foiling is still going to show. It's going to be so pretty. Just going to take it right off the page. I'm going to really push right along this edge. Can y'all see okay? Should I change my view? Let's change the view there. Okay. All right. And boom, 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 boom. Oh, so pretty. So pretty. So I need to dry it just a little bit. Just wanted to show you, you can also add color after the fact if you want to. Or no color. You don't actually have to add color if you don't want to. So I'm going to lift this up. And I think it's easier for me to actually turn the page over when I need to cut something off because I can see the edge better. And I'm just going to cut this, the part that's hanging off, the excess. Just going to carefully cut right up the Bible page. So see, it looks like my butterfly has just kind of landed on that corner of my page. It's still just a little bit damp. Missed a little tiny little bit there. There we go. So let's try it just a little bit more. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the foiling. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, so now we've got that foiling on here. If we want to add a little bit of color, and I'll come back in and add maybe some antennas, that kind of thing. But what kind of color should we put around this butterfly? What color do y'all feel? What do you feel like? It could be blue again, but we already did blue. So let's do something else. Let's do maybe a little bit of pinkish. I don't know. We'll play around with it here. The other thing I wanted to tell y'all about watercolors are awesome, but it is a good idea to stay away from student grade, like Crayola brands. I would stay away from that. Watch what I'm going to do here. This is the lid. I'm going to use the lid as a palette, and I'm going to come in and bring in some orange and some pink together and see if we can get this coral kind of peachy color. I'll put it over here so you can see. So you can see, I use this as a palette a lot. And then when it gets too full, I'll just take a baby wipe and clean it up. Okay. So let's float on a little bit of color. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it up kind of close to the butterfly, but not going over the butterfly, just floating. It's the water that floats the watercolor. So just kind of floating that around. Love that color. And then it's up to me, like how much color I want to add. It's very, very wet. We can come in, we're going to blot it with a little bit of paper towel here in just a minute. And then let's do a little more. Oops, I got it close to the napkin. Now I did not seal the napkin. So what do you think is going to happen when you get close to the napkin? If I haven't put my gesso on, what do you think is going to happen? Well, it just happened right here. I don't know if you can see it. If you forget and you don't put gesso on top of that napkin and then you come in to add your color, what's going to happen is the napkin is going to absorb. It's going to absorb. Now, it's not the end of the world. Clearly, I'm not too distressed. It's not the end of the world. It actually looks kind of pretty. So let's make it happen over here too, right? If it happens one place, let's just go ahead and let it happen somewhere else so it looks on purpose. But that napkin is absorbing that watercolor right there. Okay, let's put a little bit on down here. So it's really just, it's kind of up to you. If you don't want it to absorb, you have to, what? You have to seal it. You have to seal it. If you don't mind if it absorbs a little bit, then you can come in and you can kind of play with that. Okay. Now it's looking very, like my butterfly is really blending in here quite a bit. So I'm going to take a napkin. I'm sorry, not really a napkin. It's a paper towel. I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to come blot over this. And when you blot watercolor, it kind of takes up the excess and it gives it a little more of a softer look. I don't know if you can see that. It's also going to soften a lot when it dries. Okay, but I'm going to add a little bit more watercolor up here at the top. So the other fun thing about using our watercolors, still have my plastic underneath there, is you can come in and you can blend in things, right? When I think about transformation, that is a good thing, right? That's a happy thing. And to me, yellow is such an optimistic kind of color. So maybe we want to throw in just a little bit of yellow here and there. Maybe you want to throw in some purple or some pink. It's totally up to you. If you want it to be a clear spot to journal in, you can leave a spot open, kind of like that, to do your journaling. If you prefer to color the whole thing, you can always do your journaling on top of the watercolor, right? Just want to show you something kind of different. So you can always leave these kind of open spots. And then let's come over here. And this time, instead of actually, we can actually kind of add some watercolor maybe around here. And then if we want to add in a little bit of this color, oh, I may not have enough. Okay, there's a little bit, just a little bit. I can add in a little bit of that kind of peachy color in there. Okay. So let's let this dry. And then we're going to do some pen work on this one. Just a little bit. Thank you for sprinkling. Thank you. So just wanted to show you that you can kind of mix your own colors. We have a couple of watercolor sets. One is basics colors and one is metallic. And they're perfect for people that are just starting Bible journaling because you can mix and make your own colors very easily with them. And it's just, again, it's a great place to start so that you're not spending a ton of money in the beginning. You don't have to have all the supplies. You just need a good pair of pens, good pens, and watercolor is a great place to start. Now, it's still pretty wet, so let's try it a little bit more. I wanted to show you kind of up close. Do you see this is where the watercolor, it touched the napkin, so it bled into the napkin because I didn't seal it down here. So sometimes it's pretty. Sometimes it's pretty. So it's kind of like it's a technique, right, in itself. You can decide if you want that or not. Now, the same thing goes for pen work. If I try to do pen work on a napkin that hasn't been sealed, guess what's going to happen to the ink in that pen? Guess what the napkin's going to do? Yeah, it's going to try to absorb it. So it's important that we seal our napkin. So now you kind of know. Sometimes it's fun not to, seal it if you were trying to go for a certain kind of a look. I think I got it all. Okay, and let's dry this and let's do a little pin work. I love, Jackie, my favorite pins to use are my pit pins. Same ones I use with any of my other napkin art. I love them. They're made for mixed media. So what does that mean? Well, that means that they will draw over paint, they'll draw over watercolor, they'll draw over gelatos, they play nicely with other mediums. And they're great for Bible journaling. They're made out of India ink. So the reason I love them is that ink is made to, let me go big for a second. That ink is made to kind of lay on top of the paper. But when it dries, when it's wet, when it dries, when it's dry, it's steadfast. It won't react with water again. So even if I did journaling and then decided to add some watercolor over it or something like that, it's not going to smear. It's not going to bleed, anything like that. So Pit Pens by Faber-Castell, the set that we have is a brush tip, a medium, a small, and an extra small nib. And it's perfect. It's what I use for everything. It actually crosses over into all of my crafting, all of it. Okay, let's do a little bit of pen work. Let's have a little fun with pen work. So obviously you can see our butterfly is so pretty and so reflective and gorgeous, but let's kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So this is the pen I'm using, Faber-Castell Pit Pen, and I'm going to come in and just kind of do a little bit of kind of like doodle tracing. Okay, I'm going to trace it once. I'm going to kind of trace it again. I want it to look a little bit doodly, and I'm still just a little teeny bit wet, so got to be careful. All right, so I have a little bit there. Let's come around our wings. I'm using the small tip. I don't want it to be too, big and bold. So I'm just kind of coming around these wings. Doesn't have to be right on the gold. It's actually a little bit off the gold. And it's going to help my butterfly to really, really stand out. And then I usually, like when my hand lifts up, I usually just kind of skip a space. And then I do it again. I do this double trace. It's going to look kind of doodly. It keeps me from having to feel like everything has to be so perfect. And it gives it kind of a artsy, doodly look. Looks better sometimes, I think, the faster you go because you're not really thinking about it. Okay, and then of course, I think we need some antennas. Antennas don't have to be exactly the same. Like one of them curve more. Okay, isn't that pretty? So you see how that just kind of stands out? Now, that stands out beautifully, but watch this. And it again, this is one of those things that you don't have to do. I'm just showing you that you could do it if you want to. I could come up here and do a little bit of tracing around some of the stuff inside the butterfly. And again, this is just totally optional. I'll just do it on one side of the butterfly so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'm just following the napkin. Just kind of the images. It's okay if it touches here and there, not here and there. And it's not absorbing. So you can do pen work on your napkin art as long as you have sealed it with the gesso. You don't have to do every little thing, but just want you to see the difference. Okay. So do you see the difference? Obviously, I think it's pretty, I mean, to me, it just really pops. That pen work just really helps everything to pop, where it's more muted and blended in on the side that you don't have the pen work. Okay. Isn't that cool? So that just shows how pretty this can be. And obviously what can happen right up here. This is for my journaling, right? That's where all of my journaling would be. So I really love pen work. It just kind of, I don't know. I don't do it on everything, but some pieces they just look like they're asking for it. Sometimes certain napkins to me are they're just begging me to do some pen work on them. Okay. Yeah. So if I do pen work or watercolor near a napkin that has not been sealed with gesso, just please remember that napkin's going to absorb. So even the pen work will look all fuzzy and blurry, okay? Because we have to remember we're going to put the napkin down while this is wet. We're going to smooth it all out. We're going to dry it, and then we're going to seal it. We're going to seal it unless we're trying to achieve some sort of special artistic look. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. So I want to open up for just a little bit of Q&A for the remaining of our craft and chat time. It's 12:13, so just 5 minutes or so. And again, I'd love for you to join us. I'd love for you to join us for our creative escape. It's our summer series is June, July, and August. If you get in and realize this just isn't for you, you can always cancel as long as you cancel by the first of before the first of the next month. Okay. Let's see. The ink, the pen work dries very fast. The gesso needs a little bit of time, but obviously if you have like a heat tool, a blow dryer, something you can use, that definitely speeds up the time. Okay. All right. So I want you to go check out the information. Like I said, on our Creative Escape, we're gonna be visiting Bible stories. We're gonna be visiting different Bible stories. And I cannot. Oh, I was going to show you the back here too. It's crinkly, but there's nothing coming through. Just wanted you to see that. Yeah, I love these pit pens. They're awesome. But we're going to travel back in time to these Bible stories, and it's going to be like we're visiting. We're going to actually be. I want you to feel like you're traveling. I'm going to be your tour guide, like I said. We're going to be investigating kind of some of the places where these Bible studies happen. We might even show you what they look like present day today. We're going to learn a little more about the people that are involved in the stories. And every single place that we visit or story that we visit is going to have a devotional, and it's going to have a design printable. And then the way we do it in the Faith Journaling group, in the membership group, is we have one travel week. We'll have one travel week where we travel to a place. You're going to have your devotional, your printable. We're going to learn about the place. And then, oh, and by the way, it's Monday nights. Monday nights is the night I go live in the Faith Journaling group. And then the next week is going to be a technique week. So we're going to have travel week, technique week, travel week, technique week, all summer long. Travel week, technique week. And that's really good because it gives you plenty of time to finish your entries. I don't want anybody to ever feel rushed. And I definitely don't want you rushing through the process, because then you lose sight of what it is, what's going on, what we're really here to do in learning about how we can apply the lessons we learn to our lives, and how we can become better people, better Christians, better moms, better daughters, better parents, just better people, better humans. Right? So, and it's pretty cool because in some of these lessons, in some of these stories that we're going to revisit, we're going to learn a lot about things that we can emulate, that we want to emulate, that we want to do, but we're also going to learn about some things we shouldn't do and things we don't want to allow into, to transform our lives and things like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'd really love for you to come and join us if you feel like this is something you're interested in. Go to misstracycreates.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, there'll be a little thing that says the Faith Journaling Experience. You're going to see a suitcase. It looks like a little suitcase because we're going on a journey, this creative escape into the Bible, and we're going to be visiting these Bible stories June through August. So I'd love for you to join if you can. That would be awesome. And if it's not something you feel like doing right now, it's okay. We'll start another series in the fall. But if you've got the time and you just feel this urging on your heart, here's what I'm going to tell you to do. I don't want you to do anything too much out of impulse. I want you to just pray about it. Pray about it. If you just feel like it's right and you feel like it's something you should try, then come join us. Come join us. It's a wonderful sisterhood of women, awesome, amazing people in this group. We're there for you. We're there to pray for you. It's a safe place. It's a private place. We just have the best time digging into the Word. And that's what we're going to do. It's like we're going to be spiritual archaeologists this summer. We're going to dig in. We're going to dig into the Word. It's going to be great. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing how I use napkins in my Bible journaling. Obviously, if you do any kind of art journaling, you could do the same exact thing. And if you're still interested in grabbing one of our specialty faith-based bundles, the spring bundle is called Risen. We'll have them available until we just don't have any more. And then you can look forward to later in the fall, like mid-fall, we'll introduce another one that is Christmas-based. Okay, Christmas themed. All right. Okay. Well, thanks again for watching today. I appreciate you being here for Craft and Chat.